The True Power of Water by Masaru Emoto. Part 2. Chapter 3. Water Revives Life Force. Collecting the Information of Illness. With a Hado measuring device, we can measure the Hado of a person who is feeling ill and send the Hado to regulate any abnormal vibration. When the person's own vibration is brought back, the individual can restore his or her health. To put this principle into action, I became an operator of this device to check many people's Hado information. One day, an acquaintance of mine visited me. He said, "This is a hair of my friend's daughter. Could you please analyze it?" He handed the hair to me without telling me anything about her health, perhaps wanting to test me. While he waited, I examined the hair using the device. 1 hour later, I reported what I found. The resonance value of the whole brain is extremely low. Abnormality in resonance value is observed throughout the body, and lead toxin, which is considered to be the cause of these conditions, is observed throughout the body. After listening to what I had to say, he disclosed the information about his friend's daughter. She had been going to the psychiatric department of a university hospital for the past 10 years, repeatedly hospitalized and discharged. She underwent detailed examinations many times, but no cause was identified. Since the cause was unknown, her health could not be improved. In despair, her father thought he would try alternative medicine and asked my acquaintance, who introduced my Hado medicine to him. Her father was very concerned about his daughter's poor health, but did not seem to think much of what the device could do. The next day, I received a telephone call from the man, who excitedly told me that the father became speechless upon hearing the report of lead toxin in the brain. He said, "Come to think of it, we still use lead pipes for our water system in our house." The father, who had been half skeptical, brought his wife and daughter to my office the following day. He also brought the tap water from his house. The daughter didn't look like someone who had mental problems. She appeared very neat and tidy. Normally she was fine, but from time to time she would have hallucinations. With the Hado measuring device, I examined the daughter and her parents. Similar to the result from her hair measurement, a very strong lead toxicity was detected in her body, with an indicator of 12/21. The Hado device gives readings as a fraction with a denominator of 21, so 12/21 means the ratio is more than 1/2, which is quite high. Her parents scored 9/21. The problem was their tap water. My analysis revealed a reading as high as 19/21, an extremely strong lead toxicity reaction. Based on these findings, I told the anxious family, "Her suffering does not seem to be caused by mental problems. I suspect it is due to lead accumulation in the brain." I will never forget the expressions of the family when they heard me. They looked totally relieved. It was understandable because they had finally found that her long-time suffering was not derived from psychiatric problems. They now knew the cause. The parents decided to replace their lead water pipes immediately. They also asked if I could help remove the lead toxin from their brains using the Hado device. I replied, "I cannot be involved in medical treatment, but I can help cancel the Hado of lead toxicity which caused the suffering." In terms of molecular structure, it is simple water. However, I can make the water carry the necessary vibration. The parents and their daughter accepted my explanation, so I made the Hado water that could cancel the lead toxicity for them. The daughter earnestly drank the water for 2 months, and her lead toxicity level dropped from 12/21 to 2/21. Possibly as a reaction to her rapid decrease in lead toxicity, the daughter could not sleep at all for 4 or 5 nights. However, her health improved, as confirmed by her doctor at the university hospital. This episode has a sequel. While I was pleased to help the daughter, it made me realize the power and danger of water. After the consultation, we asked a public organization to analyze the quality of tap water from their house while it still had lead pipes. 10 days later, we received the results, which showed a frightening reality. The tap water was marked passing even in the category of lead, though I believe the toxicity existed at the subatomic level. Although the lead was not detected at the molecular level, I interpreted this as a limitation of current water analysis. Water might not have absorbed lead toxicity directly, but it must have taken its harmful HADO. As the daughter drank water with this toxic information, her bodily vibration was disturbed, leading to her suffering. As I mentioned earlier, water carries information, positive or negative. Since we are water, our bodies respond to the information carried by the water we drink. When we get positive information, we become healthier, but negative information makes us sick. People's names and pictures carry the information of their illness. Depending on the information of the words we show to water, water may or may not form ice crystals. I proved this through taking photographs of water crystals. To substantiate my hypothesis that water changes according to the information given to it, I continued to take photographs of water crystals. Our common sense tells us it is doubtful that water sees the information and changes itself accordingly. On the other hand, since I had been involved in many experiments using the HADO device, I often encountered situations that could not have been explained without this hypothesis. Let me give an example. Soon after I started to help people restore their health with HADO medicine, a man visited me. His friend's 22-year-old daughter had been diagnosed with lymphatic tumor. Her father had died of the same disease several years ago. Furthermore, the father's father also died of the same disease. Both of them were medical doctors. The man came to see me because he was eager to help the daughter somehow. The young woman was a medical student. She underwent a surgery at her university hospital, and she was still in the hospital for chemotherapy. This put me in a difficult spot. I had been using the HADO measuring device to collect the information from the people with disturbed vibrations and making HADO water to cancel the disturbances and correct their body's vibration. But how would it be possible to get the information from the person in the hospital? I couldn't possibly take the device to the hospital room. It was hard for me to believe that the medical doctors in this state-of-the-art university hospital would recognize the HADO alternative medicine as viable. Even if I was able to bring the device to the hospital, I would be kicked out if they found me. I told this man of my dilemma. He came back to my office with the patient's mother this time. Both of them appealed to me to measure her daughter's HADO. I was touched by their perseverance, and I felt that I must measure her HADO somehow and make HADO water for her. Suddenly, an idea came to me. "Could you please take a photograph of your daughter and bring it to me?" I asked. As instructed, the mother took her picture and brought it to me. I was able to measure her HADO by putting the picture on the HADO machine. Her picture indicated a very strong anxiety. As I mentioned in the previous chapter, anxiety often manifests as stomach problems. The mother commented that her daughter had been having severe nausea lately and was unable to eat. This response encouraged me. I felt confident that I would be able to collect the information about her disease even if she was not able to come to my office. Immediately, I prepared the HADO water to correct her HADO. Her mother continued to bring a new picture each time she came to see me, and I continued to make HADO water for her. In the case of this young lady, there were many disturbances throughout her body due to the side effects of chemotherapy. She drank the HADO water that would cancel the unfavorable HADO, and her chemotherapy went on smoothly. After several rounds of chemotherapy, she was discharged from the hospital. She went back to her school. I've heard that she is now working as a medical doctor. Through many experiences similar to this one, I became convinced that water must read the information from pictures and letters and change its quality accordingly. The wonder of ice crystal photographs is that they clearly validate my hypothesis. In fact, I also had a hypothesis that names carry information which water can take in. To prove this hypothesis, I once conducted an experiment in which various names, such as Mother Teresa and Adolf Hitler, were written and pasted on bottles of water and then water crystal pictures were taken. The results were as I expected. The pictures we took reflected the emotions associated with the person of that name. In other words, names also have Hado. I even included these pictures in my photographic books in the past. However, lately I have refrained from taking such pictures because even if another individual happens to have the same name as a criminal, it doesn't mean that this person is also a criminal. So we no longer photograph or publish crystal photographs from people's names. Hado consultation for a girl with acute myelocytic leukemia. On February 24th, 1996, I was asked to work with a girl, then 14 years old, who had been recently attacked by leukemia. It may be a little bit lengthy, but I would like to show you the process of her recovery based on her records. My intention is to present the true power of Hado for the reader's deeper understanding. She was referred by Mr. Noboru Suzuki, a practitioner of alternative medicine, specifically healing with the touch of his hands. Unfortunately, he is deceased now, but he was quite famous in his field. Mr. Suzuki lived in Hokkaido, and we had met several times. We hit it off well, and we often exchanged our information. Mr. Suzuki contacted me one day and said, "I am currently seeing a girl with leukemia, but she is beyond my scope. Could you please help her?" I didn't know to what extent I could help her, but I couldn't say no to Mr. Suzuki's request. As she lived in Tokyo, it would be convenient for her to come to my office. So I met her parents, who brought their daughter's picture with them. According to them, the daughter was not hospitalized yet. Occasionally, she would groan as if she was possessed. They were not sure if it would be good for their daughter to be hospitalized. Her picture was taken at home. Using the picture, I measured her Hado. First, I measured her genetic information. I will come back to this point later with more detail, but there are many cases in which genetic information inherited from ancestors causes abnormality to the individual's own vibration. Therefore, I felt it was necessary to check her genetic information. This examination revealed a strong fear of cancer. This emotion was negatively affecting the lymphatic glands. I concluded that she needed Hado to calm down her fear. Prejudice was another emotion detected in her. This emotion was negatively affecting the spleen, so another Hado was needed to cancel the emotion of prejudice. The next emotion to come up was shyness. This had to be removed, as it was negatively affecting her heart. Then sadness followed. In this manner, I examined her genetic information on 17 items. The results were quite serious. After finishing the examination on her genetic information, I checked on her current conditions, such as lack of appetite, platelet problems, hemoglobin, and spleen. After about 3 hours of examination, I prepared her Hado water and handed it to her parents. At the same time, I recommended that they take her to a hospital for treatment, as her conditions were quite serious. The next day, her parents took her to a national pediatric hospital for hospitalization. After drinking the Hado water, the girl experienced some breathing difficulties. This is one of the common tendencies that people often experience after drinking Hado water, but there is no need to worry. I took it as a function of making a turn for the better. A week later, on March 3rd, the parents came back to my office with her picture for the second visit. They told me that since her hemoglobin count had dropped, she received a treatment for it at the hospital during the past week. A diuretic drug was also used for her abdominal fluid accumulation, and the bacteria count was reduced due to antibiotics. She was unable to eat, so she was receiving nutrients through intravenous drip. She was also showing signs of jaundice. This time, I examined what was the most severe at present, which happened to be strong fear and sadness. I prepared the Hado water to cancel these emotions. I had her take the Hado water 5 times a day. As she was not in the condition that she could drink it from a glass, her parents gave it to her by dropping 1 to 2 milliliters of it under her tongue at a time using a syringe. If a person can drink water, I usually ask him or her to dilute the Hado water and to drink it 5 times daily, totaling 800 to 1,000 milliliters a day. When her parents came back for the 3rd visit on March 7th, they brought me good news. The new Hado water had seemed to work well for her. The examination conducted on the 5th showed that her white blood cell count dropped from as high as 2,300 to 900. Her jaundice had disappeared, and the functions of her lungs and heart had improved. However, she had fluid accumulation around the heart, and she was also suffering from anemia. So I prepared yet another Hado water for her. After drinking this water, she started to improve more rapidly. The fluid around the heart was reduced, and she no longer needed intravenous drips in her right arm and leg. Up until that time, she had had intravenous drips in 3 places, but now she needed it only in her left arm. As we repeated the process of preparing Hado water for her to drink and re-examined her new conditions to make new Hado water, her white blood cell count improved. She was allowed to go home temporarily from April 22nd through 29th, and again from May 3rd through 6th. Her parents reported that her facial expression had changed remarkably from a blank look to smiles. At the same time as she was taking the Hado water I prepared, she also received treatments at the hospital. I believe her improvement was derived from both approaches together. In mid-May, however, she started to experience the side effects of the strong anti-cancer drugs, and she started to lose her hair. It gave quite a shock to this teenage girl. When I examined her conditions the next time, she showed emotions such as loneliness, oppression, deep grief, short temper, and severe irritability. Naturally, it takes a long time to counteract this kind of complex emotions. Even if she drank Hado water, she wouldn't be returned to health overnight. Also, there were many disturbances in her body as well. We needed to correct one disturbance at a time, and we continued the process for quite a while. I prepared Hado water, and she took it. I made new Hado water, and she took it. We repeated this process 11 times. I will never forget the examination on December 7th. It was the day she came to see me in my office for the first time. I had met her only through her pictures. Now she was there standing in front of me. It was a very moving meeting. The previous examination was on September 7th, and it had been 3 months since then. How did her vibration change during this time? I immediately began to use the Hado device to collect her information directly. She still had many strong emotions remaining, such as fear, panic, fear of losing self-control, suppression, irritability, fear of death, pressure, and stress. The Hado water prepared at that time must have worked really well for her, as her conditions rapidly improved. Surprisingly, she was discharged from the hospital on December 19th. From the beginning of the following year, we examined her once a week. On February 7th, she had a menstrual period after having missed it for some time. This bodily change pleased the teenage girl, and she must have felt positive about her illness. In April, she entered high school, and she was able to go to school with her parents' car. Each time we examined her, she showed some disturbance in her vibration, but gradually it weakened. Finally, we stopped her examination. This girl is now 24 years old. She is working as a designer. Her parents told me recently that she is presently studying how to integrate her techniques as a designer into healing. Hado consultation for a baby with congenital heart disease. Many people have come to see me for consultation. The reason I took on the following case is because the way I met the baby girl was unique, and I conducted the first test for her on July 15, 1994. This baby was referred by her family doctor. Dr. Y said that he came to visit me because he had read my book and realized the potential of the Hado medicine that I had been practicing. On that day, the baby did not come, but the doctor brought her picture, with which I conducted an examination. The baby's picture was so lovely that she made me smile. I was told that she was at a critical stage because her prognosis was that she might have only a few months to live. In terms of Western medical diagnosis, her condition was not just critical, but hopeless. I felt that the circumstances were bleak, but at the same time my fighting spirit welled up. I told myself that I must protect her life, and I listened to Dr. Y's explanation. The baby had been diagnosed with a congenital heart disease called infantile heart hypertrophy. As the heart grows abnormally, it occupies more and more space in the chest. Eventually, the disease will kill the infant. In most cases, babies with this disease will not reach their first birthday. The baby was diagnosed with the disease on May 24th. The examination at that time revealed that her heart occupied 68.9% of the chest space. I grew impatient because I realized that she had only 3 months before she turned 1 year old. I was confident about Hado medicine, but could I help her in time? As I mentioned earlier, disease is the result of vibrational disturbance at the subatomic particle level, triggering the disturbance at the atomic level, which in turn causes the disturbance at the molecular level, then the cellular level, and finally at the level of the organs. To correct the vibration with Hado water, the process has to be carried out in the reverse order. It takes time. In fact, we have experienced cases where we could not help people because of the time shortage. I had no time to waste, so I started to measure her vibration right away using her picture. At her genetic level, the Hado device detected fear of death, guilt, depression, distrust, and deep grief. I prepared Hado water to cancel these emotions. The second visit was on September 8th, 2 months later. During that time, she had been examined at the hospital, and I was told that her heart was now occupying 54% of the chest space. Her second Hado examination resulted in similar emotions as before. Although her heart ratio had dropped to 54%, the next examination showed an increase to 59%. Her progress was far from desirable, but she was able to celebrate her first birthday on October 15th. Her third Hado examination revealed lack of patience, apathy, prejudice, stress, extreme fear, pressure, worry, anxiety, loneliness, distrust, suppression, weariness, panic, procrastination, and self-pity. The Hado water prepared at that time must have worked well for her because her conditions improved to the point where she was discharged from the hospital. Since then, I examined her once a month and prepared the best Hado water each time for her. Her heart's hypertrophic tendency gradually decreased, and the ratio went down to 30%. On April 23, 1996, her 25th examination, I received the best news possible. She had been examined at the hospital a week earlier, and her heart value was normal. This was the last time I saw this patient. Nevertheless, I promised to do my best should she need my help again. Dr. Y, her family doctor, became more interested in Hado medicine. He even contributed to an article for our journal. In the article, he expressed his determination to respect the merits of both Western medicine and Hado medicine and to become the bridge between them. Conditions that have been thought of as hereditary. Heredity refers to the information transmitted to an individual from his or her father and mother, and also from extended ancestors. The ancestor's information is clearly written in a gene. The ancestor's information has various merits, but unfortunately, it also includes demerits. In the context of disease, the ancestor's negative emotions are transmitted as negative information that often is manifested physically. This is the reason why I often start with examining the patient's genetic information when I conduct a Hado examination. People often use the term, a family line of cancer. Perhaps such a family had carried the emotions that were likely to cause cancer generation after generation. This is how I understand heredity. Except for diseases caused by viruses and electromagnetic waves, the method of Hado medicine takes time because we have to correctly understand the patient's genetic information and to cancel its effects one by one. The information of many generations is stored in layers. I believe that there are 12 layers in the human body. We have to go through layer by layer to counteract the information that can trigger a disease. Many years ago, a couple who attended my seminar told me that their second daughter was suffering from a progressive type of colon cancer. Medical care, including Hado medicine, tackled her case wholeheartedly, and the progress of her cancer had been stopped. 3 years later, their first daughter was diagnosed with brain cancer. In a short time period, both of their daughters had been attacked by cancer. The parents were deeply discouraged. The negative emotions of the people around them would not help the patients get well. We decided to constructively examine her Hado. I was worried about how I should tell her parents about the results of the genetic information obtained from the Hado measuring device. If I simply said to them, negative information was transmitted from a previous life, I might end up confusing them unnecessarily. So I didn't think it was necessary to tell them the detailed information about the examination and its results, and I gave them the minimum amount of information. Her father, who left my office after having listened to what I said, came back again soon and said, "Well, I am wondering if what you said happens to be the same thing that is written here." He showed me a thick copy taken from an academic journal. It was titled, "The Dawn of Fulfillment in Life. How does the progress of scientific research on reincarnation influence one's view of life?" This article was written by Dr. Fumihiko Lida, assistant professor at Fukushima University Economics Department. By just reading the subheadings of the article, I realized that what Dr. Lida was intending to communicate was the same as what I wanted to say. That's right, this is what I meant. Well, Fukushima University is a reputable national university. Time has certainly changed, hasn't it? Now, a professor of such a university is boldly presenting this kind of paper in an academic journal. I couldn't help but feel astonished to see his paper published fearlessly in Japan, where only Western medicine is regarded highly. Illnesses react to negative emotions. How important it is to live our life positively. I am quite an optimist. I have been very busy since I started my research. Especially during the past few years, I have had only 5 days or less of vacation a year. Suddenly, I find myself having become 60 years old. In the society where I live, I am old enough to retire from work. However, I have no intention to retire from my active life. Fortunately, I receive many requests for lecturing from numerous countries throughout the world. In spite of frequent traveling around the world to speak, I feel that my physical strength is good enough to beat even a younger person. The very source of my physical strength is my positive attitude. Conversely, those who think negatively tend to become ill easily. In fact, many of the people who came to see me for Hado treatments were those who somehow had lost their balance in a negative direction. The reason was often that negative thoughts resonated with negative factors, such as viruses, and invited them in. By the end of the 1980s, I had been thinking that the emotion of loneliness was related to the hippocampus of the brain responsible for memories. I was also thinking that aluminum was related to dementia. Through my analysis using the Hado measuring device, I was convinced that there were strong correlations between them. The negative emotion of loneliness affects the hippocampus. Thus, the intrinsic vibration of the hippocampus is disturbed. I found that the frequency of the hippocampus's disturbed vibration resonated with the frequency of aluminum's vibration. I thought that it was because excess aluminum was accumulated at the hippocampus that memories were affected. Subsequently, the Alzheimer's Association of America and other researchers published papers on the connection between aluminum and Alzheimer's disease. Also, negative emotions often resonate with viruses. Let's take a cold as an example. At an elementary school, one class is forced to close due to a raging cold, yet another class at the same school does not have many absent children, and most of them are studying hard. Such a situation often arises. One of the causes for a cold is a virus. If that is the case, shouldn't the risk of catching the cold be the same throughout the school? Why is it not so? I believe the key to the answer is group consciousness. Class A has many children who tend to think negatively. Since they heard the news that the cold this year was going to be severe, they think about the cold all the time and wonder how horrible it is going to be if they catch the cold. Influenced by these children, the others also start to think about the cold. On the other hand, Class B happens to have many optimistic children, and nobody thinks about the cold. They are remembering the fun television programs they watched the night before, or they are feeling that they can hardly wait for lunchtime to come. Which class is more likely to have more sick children, Class A or Class B? The answer should be obvious. The kanji character meaning infection consists of two characters, feeling and being tainted. Negative thoughts resonate with the more negative factors to make the situation worse. This is not limited only to diseases. People often commit suicide after having read some sort of suicidal material. About 20 years ago, a teen idol in Japan committed suicide. Soon after this news was spread, many youngsters followed her lead, and once an incident of a phantom killer occurs, it seems to affect others to do the same. An ultimate example would be airplane accidents. Why do airplane accidents occur in clusters? It is possible that the anxiety of pilots, mechanics, and passengers merges to form a huge hada, and that triggers the next accident. To live a healthy life, keep your thoughts positive. I am not a medical doctor, but I believe that all doctors should be philosophers as well as healers. The doctor's deep insight and compassion heals patients. When patients can remove their negative emotions, they will be able to draw upon their own self-healing abilities. In olden times, the doctors were those who were deeply involved in religion, such as priests and shamans. As they did in the past, if doctors can help their patients heal and attain peace of mind, the patient's resonance with diseases would cease. Why SARS occurred. A few years ago, a new virus that humans had never encountered before was rampant. It was called SARS, Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. Honestly, I felt that this virus had been foreseen. I viewed it as a virus that came into existence because of the weakened state of the Earth. As I mentioned in Chapter 1, the world's population was approximately 1.5 billion in 1900. Now it is over 6 billion. The world population in 1 AD was believed to be 180 million. This means that the population grew by only 1.3 billion during 1,900 years, while it increased by as much as 4.5 billion during the past 100 years. Undoubtedly, this is astonishing. If we view the Earth as one living body, we can understand that this gigantic body is suffering from disturbed vibration due to the explosive increase of population. If the Earth is compared to a human body, the disturbance to its vibration must have progressed beyond the disturbance at the subatomic particle, atomic, or molecular levels. Perhaps it has already reached to the cellular level, or even the vibration of organs may have been affected. Therefore, we must realize that the Earth's immunity and self-healing power has been reduced tremendously. When the lowered immunity is coupled with negative emotions of social anxiety, it is easy to resonate with a virus that has the same frequency. In 2003, while people in Canada were being infected with SARS and loss of life, I visited the country, including Toronto, the most severely affected city. While I was there, an idea came to me. I contacted my office in Tokyo and instructed them to take new water crystal photographs. I was wondering what would happen if we showed the words severe acute respiratory syndrome, both in Japanese and English, to a bottle of distilled water. Normally, distilled water would form crystals. In fact, before we showed the words to the water, it formed crystals. What happened to the water after having shown it these words? As expected, after water was exposed to these words in both Japanese and English, it formed only eerie shapes, far from beautiful crystals. The name of the disease contained negative information strong enough to prevent the distilled water from making crystals. After we finished this experiment, we decided to conduct yet another experiment. We gave a new piece of information to the same water that had changed its quality after having been exposed to the name of the disease. This time, the information was positive in nature. We removed the paper "Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome" from the bottle and replaced it with the label "Love and Gratitude." We did this in both Japanese and English. As a result, the water formed crystals again. Both water samples given the information in Japanese and in English produced beautiful crystals. See Figure 3.1. Perhaps there are people who find it hard to believe the results we present here and who may say, "It must be a simple coincidence," or "You must be lying." However, it is an undeniable fact. The water changed dramatically according to the information exposed to it. Giving attention is a way of giving energy. Because the following case was introduced in my book, The Hidden Messages in Water, Beyond Words Publishing, 2004, some readers may remember it. Here I quote from this book. A family that subscribed to our magazine conducted an interesting experiment. They put rice in 2 glass jars, and every day for a month said "thank you" to one jar and "you fool" to the other, and then they tracked how the rice changed over the period. Even the children, when they got home from school, would speak these words to the jars of rice. After a month, the rice that was told "thank you" started to ferment with a mellow smell like that of malt, while the rice that was exposed to "you fool" rotted and turned black. See Figure 3.2. I wrote about this experiment in the book, Messages from Water, Volume 1, that I published, and as a result, hundreds of families throughout Japan conducted this same experiment for themselves. Everyone reported the same results. One family tried a variation of the experiment. Like the others, they said, "Thank you" to the first bottle of rice and "you fool" to the second bottle, and then they prepared a third bottle of rice that they simply ignored. What do you think happened? The rice that was ignored actually rotted before the rice that was exposed to "you fool." When others tried this same experiment, the results were again the same. It seems that being ridiculed is actually not as damaging as being ignored. The result of this experiment has a significant meaning. The hardest thing for life is to be ignored and given no attention. To give your attention to something is a way of giving energy. Someone who grows plants told me that if you talk to the plants while watering them, they will grow faster and produce more beautiful flowers. By receiving attention, life can get the energy to move in a better direction. The same is true with human society. Due to a sluggish economy, restructuring has become a popular practice among many Japanese corporations. The companies mercilessly push employees deemed unnecessary away from the main activities of their business. Still, other more heartless companies put them in a restructuring room, and they are not given real jobs. From their perspective, being severely scolded by their boss would be easier to take. There is no harder situation than being put in a position where you have no work to do and no one talking to you. When they are no longer able to bear such a circumstance, they voluntarily leave the company. The worst-case scenario is that they are driven to commit suicide. Let's think about the reverse. If we want our employees to do their jobs well, let's talk to them on an ongoing basis to encourage them. If we want to discipline our children, let's say something to them that is positive and inspirational. If we get sick or injured, let's treat the affected cells kindly. Paying full attention to the affected part will quicken its recovery. We should remember that we have been able to live our life in health because of that part of our body, and we should feel grateful for it. If people are sick around us, let's say something to them. Realizing that they are making our life richer by their contribution, let's encourage them wholeheartedly with positive words. By doing so, we can expect their quick recovery. The power in our words. Water is sensitive, and it responds to what we say. When we send good hado to water by saying positive words to it, it will show us beautiful crystals. Also, our prayers send out energy and change the quality of the water. By offering prayers to water, we send hado to the water, and such water gains the power to potentially answer our prayers. There is a knack to doing this. We can send stronger hado by offering our prayers in the past tense than in the future tense. For example, let's assume that a child whose mother got cancer says his prayers to water for her recovery. I hope my mother's cancer will be cured. I am not saying that such a prayer is bad. Definitely, the hado of this prayer affects water. To pray the same thing but using different words can be a more effective way to change water. My mother's cancer was cured. Strictly speaking, from the grammatical viewpoint, the past tense does not make sense, as the event is yet to happen. However, we can make our thought and intention stronger by saying it in the past tense. Rather than saying it in the future tense, will be cured, the past tense, was cured, can communicate our strong will more assertively. When we offer our prayers, it is important to have a strong image of a cure as soon as we state it. Imaging something means that we are praying for the final result. Let's suppose that we want to become the Secretary General of the United Nations when we grow up. Compared to making this statement in the future tense by asserting, I became the Secretary General, while we are imagining ourselves 30 or 50 years later chairing a meeting of the United Nations, we can expect to live our life more smoothly. This can be materialized only after an image is formed. The image I am discussing here is our hope. It is a form of positive information. As we repeat the information with strong words, water will naturally help us. It appears from my experience that loudly vocalizing the words gives off a stronger hado than writing them on paper. I am not a man of religion, nor do I want to praise religions unnecessarily. However, the prayers used for a long time by a religion have a strong hado energy. I feel that if we believe in our religion faithfully and recite the prayers undoubtedly, we will be blessed with a strong power. Once I witnessed a man of religion whose prayers caused an enormous amount of water to change. I visited with Chief Priest Hukikado of a Japanese esoteric Buddhist temple, as I had heard that he performed incantations and prayers at Fujiwara Dam in Gunma Prefecture. He had been conducting such incantations and prayers a number of times. I have seen the photographs of the dam reservoir at Fujiwara Dam taken before and after his prayers. In comparison, the colors of the two before and after pictures certainly looked different. As I was greatly interested, I asked Priest Kato if he would let me go with him when he performed his prayers next time. Before his prayers started, we collected a sample of water from the reservoir. Priest Kato began his incantations and prayers. He continued to pray for 1 hour while creating a highly solemn atmosphere around him. After he finished his prayers, I was listening to his talk. Perhaps it was about 15 minutes after the prayers ended. The staff who accompanied me exclaimed, "Wow! Look, the color of the reservoir is changing rapidly." Indeed, the water of the huge reservoir was getting clearer. Before the prayer, there was no reflection on the surface as the water was muddy. Now the trees around were reflected on the surface, forming sharp images. We have the word kotodama, spirit of words, in Japanese. Most definitely, Priest Kato's words must have had that spirit. I was witnessing the power of spirit in action. We also collected a sample of water after the prayer to take back to Tokyo, where we were going to take water crystal pictures. No matter how often we tried, no crystal was formed from the sample of water before the prayers. On the other hand, the water after the prayers formed a crystal of heavenly beauty. It had a double structure of a small hexagon inside a beautiful outer hexagon. See figure 3.3. This crystal is also on the cover of my book, The Hidden Messages in Water. Love and gratitude enhances immunity. To make good water, get some distilled water, if possible, to start. We can take beautiful ice crystal pictures from distilled water without doing anything special to it. This means that the water is good and pure. However, it may not be that easy to get distilled water. In that case, ordinary tap water is acceptable. Please offer a prayer to the water in the bottle. If we could perform incantations and prayers like Priest Kato, who changed the reservoir water at Fujiwara Dam, it would be the best. However, it would be difficult for us ordinary people to recite the prayers with spirit of words, just like he did. Since we haven't received special training, we would be distracted by all of our other thoughts. So simply talk to the water. If you have a wish, you might want to say it as an emphatic statement in the past tense, as I explained earlier, while imaging your success. Ideally, you want to recite your prayers aloud continuously. However, it may not be very practical for today's busy people to recite their prayers to water for a few hours every day. I recommend that you write words on paper and paste it to the container with the words facing in so that the water inside can read them. Additionally, talk to the water from time to time and occasionally shake the bottle, which helps to activate the water and contributes to the vibrations. By just doing these things, you can make your own personalized Hado water. I suggest you drink 5 glasses of this water every day. What should you do if you don't have specific wishes? The best thing is to show the words love and gratitude to water and talk to it. For a long time, I have been giving water many pieces of information and taking ice crystal photographs. We have given water as many pieces of positive information as we could think of, beautiful words, beautiful scenery photographs, and beautiful music in order to take crystal pictures. They were all beautiful, but the most beautiful one to me was the crystal that formed after the water was exposed to the words love and gratitude. Love is absolute, and gratitude is relative. Absoluteness is an active energy, and relativeness is a passive energy. Only when we have a receiver can we be involved in the act of giving. No matter how hard you try to give your love, without a receiver, you won't be able to do so. It is nature's providence. The sun is on the side of giving, and the moon is receiving. This is true with male-female love, and with the act of giving relating to the birth of life. These acts are also possible when there are receivers. Splendidly, the water crystals present us nature's providence and the concept of life's phenomena. Not just love, not just gratitude. Only when the two are together can they manifest the workings of nature. I came to realize that perhaps there is no better information than these 2 words carry. The ratio of water is 1:2, oxygen to hydrogen. Learning from this structure, I even venture to believe that good water means 1 portion of love and 2 portions of gratitude. Stay tuned for the final part of the true power of water. Peace, blessings, love, and enlightenment to you all.